Welcome to the Outline channel. Today I'm presenting you with an action and crime film titled A Working Man, produced in 2025. Please be aware, this article contains major spoilers. Proceed with caution. The film begins with a former Special Forces soldier named Levon who wakes up in his car, which he uses as his home. He then gets out of the car and opens the door to the construction site he oversees. We discover that Levon is a foreman at a construction company, and it's clear from his interactions with the workers that they like and respect him a great deal. One of them even gives him food that his wife prepared specifically for him, and Levon thanks him. Afterward, he speaks to the workers, urging them to finish the job on time and promising them a bonus if they meet the deadline. He then leaves them and goes to his office, where he meets Carla and Joe, the company owners, and their daughter Jenny, who handles the accounts. It is clear from their conversation that they consider Levon a member of the family. Jenny asks her father for his credit card, as she plans to go out with her friends that night. Levon smiles when he hears Joe trying to dissuade her from overspending, but he gives in to her insistence and hands her the card. At that moment, a car arrives at the site, and a group of men with criminal appearances get out. They assault the worker who brought Levon breakfast. Levon tries to calm them down and convince them to leave, but one of them insults him and tells him to back off. Levon gets angry, throws nails at them, and attacks them with extreme violence until they flee. He then checks on the shaken worker before returning to his job. Later, Jenny comes to Levon, having witnessed the fight. She asks him if he was a soldier in the army, as his professional movements remind her of her grandfather, who was also a soldier. She asks him to teach her some moves for self-defense, but he refuses and asks her not to mention anything to her parents. Jenny agrees and gives him some food that her grandmother prepared for him, knowing he lives alone and no one cooks for him. Levon accepts the food and asks her to thank her grandmother. After finishing work, Levon goes to visit his daughter, Mary. He is shocked to see her grandfather Jordan hosting a party on the same day he was supposed to pick her up. Jordan's intention is to make Mary refuse to go with him, but she doesn't comply and rushes to her father to leave with him. Jordan then appears and speaks to Levon with disdain, accusing him of being a source of trouble and of being the reason for his wife's death due to the chaotic and violent life he lived. Jordan tries to provoke Levon into hitting him so he can use the situation to his advantage in court and take custody of Mary, but Levon controls his temper and denies causing his wife's death. He then leaves with his daughter to a restaurant where they have lunch, and he gives her a photo of her with her mother. Mary tells him that she is angry with her mother for dying and leaving them, and reveals that her grandfather got rid of all of her mother's photos. Levon's deep sadness over his late wife becomes evident. Afterward, Levon visits his lawyer to tell him about Jordan's actions. The lawyer informs him that Jordan has a large team of lawyers who are working hard to take custody of his daughter, and wonders about the intensity of Jordan's hatred for him. Levon reveals that Jordan thinks he is the reason for his daughter's death, because Levon's wife became depressed from his constant absence due to his work, and decided to take her own life. The lawyer offers to try to reconcile with Jordan, as he believes Levon might lose the case, especially since he doesn't have a permanent residence. However, Levon strongly refuses, insists on continuing the case, and promises to solve the housing problem quickly. Night falls, and Jenny goes out with her friends to a bar. There, a young man named David introduces himself to her and gives her a special table in exchange for her name. Jenny agrees and returns to her friends. At that moment, David sends a message to a man named Viper, a member of a human trafficking gang. Viper and his female partner rush to the bar. During the night, one of Jenny's friends drinks too much, so Jenny accompanies her to the restroom and waits outside. When her friend comes out, Jenny is attacked by Viper, who covers her mouth and kidnaps her. The next day, Carla and Joe meet with Levon and tell him that Jenny disappeared after entering the restroom at the bar. They plead with him to help them find her, using his military experience. However, he refuses, fearing he will lose custody of his daughter if he gets involved in more violence. Despite Joe's offer of money, he leaves them and walks away. Afterward, he goes to his friend Johnny's cabin in the woods. We discover that Levon saved his life on a previous military mission, but Johnny lost his sight that day, yet he still feels indebted to him. Levon tells him what happened with Jenny, and his hesitation to intervene out of fear for his daughter's custody. Despite loving Jenny like a second daughter, Johnny encourages him to save her no matter the consequences. Levon returns to Joe, who was watching a video of Jenny playing the piano. Joe tells him that she turned down a music scholarship to help him with the business. Levon reassures him and promises to search for her until he finds her. Levon gets in his car and starts gathering information. He returns to the bar where Jenny was kidnapped and notices David secretly selling drugs. He deduces that David is involved in the kidnapping. He exits through the back door of the bar and finds the camera cable cut. He also sees a bead that fell from Jenny's necklace, realizing she resisted her kidnappers. After the bar closes, he tracks David by planting a tracker in his car. He then sneaks into his house, threatens him with a gun, shows him a picture of Jenny, and asks him about the gang. David denies knowing anything, but Levon knows he's lying. He drags him to the bathroom and submerges his face in water, until David confesses that the kidnappers are a dangerous gang he advises not to approach. At that moment, two of David's partners arrive, break into the house, and kill David. Levon shoots and kills them in return. He then finds a Russian Mafia tattoo on their bodies. Levon remains staked out near David's house until the next morning. He sees two men get out of a car with their boss, Volo. He sneaks after them and sees how angry Volo is to see his men dead and not find the money. He orders his men, Danny and Vanko, to find who did it quickly. Levon notices a cleaning service car arriving with two women to clean the crime scene and hide the evidence. Volo and his men then leave quickly, while Levon continues to watch, waiting for his chance to strike. Levon follows Volo's car in his own until he reaches Volo's house. He parks near the house, grabs some equipment from his car, and hides among the trees to observe the house. At that moment, he sees Volo hitting his wife. After the wife leaves, Levon enters the house. As soon as he sees Volo, he throws coffee in his face and beats him until he loses consciousness. When Volo wakes up, he finds himself tied to a chair with a rope connected to the swimming pool. Levon removes the tape from his mouth and asks him if he knows who he is. Volo replies that he knows him well and is aware he works for the Russian Mafia. Volo then threatens him, telling him he made a big mistake by killing his men and stealing his money, and that he will make his life hell and kill his entire family. But Levon doesn't care about his threats. He slaps him and tells him that's his punishment for hitting his wife. Afterward, he throws the money he took from David's house in his face and tells him he doesn't need his money. He then shows him a picture of Jenny and tells him he wants her returned to her family and informs him that she was kidnapped at the bar where they distribute drugs. Volo gets angry and talks about someone named Demi and starts shouting words in Russian. Levon tells him he doesn't understand what he's saying and asks him to hand over Jenny and he will let him live. But Volo insults and yells at him, so Levon cuts the rope and throws him into the swimming pool to drown. Levon leaves the house immediately and takes out his phone, which shows he was recording Volo's confessions to translate later. He discovers that Demi is behind Jenny's disappearance. A little later, a cleaning company arrives to remove Volo's body and hide the crime scene. At the same time, Simone, Volo's brother, arrives. We then learn that Danny and Vanko are Simone's sons. They console their father on their uncle's death. Simone enters the house, sad for his brother, and then watches the camera footage showing Levon killing Volo. He is amazed by Levon's audacity and decides to find out the reason behind it. Simone orders his sons to bring Levon to him alive because he wants to take revenge himself. At the same time, Jenny appears at her detention location. A woman named Artie enters, disguised, and offers her food and new clothes. She then pulls out her gun and threatens that she must eat and get dressed or she will kill her. Meanwhile, Levon contacts an old friend who served with him in the army and now works in drug enforcement. He asks him about Demi. His friend tells him about a bar that Demi owns and distributes drugs from. Levon heads there at night without hesitation. At that moment, Artie is watching the bar through surveillance cameras and becomes suspicious when she notices that he is carrying a weapon. She asks her colleague, Chidi, to go and check him out. Chidi sits next to Levon. Levon takes out a wad of money and places it in front of him. Chidi understands that Levon wants to buy drugs, so he takes him to meet the gang leader, Dutch. Artie tells Dutch that Levon is armed, and she suspects he is a cop. Dutch asks Levon why he's carrying a weapon. Levon replies that he's carrying it to protect himself from robbers, because he has a lot of money on him. Dutch asks him to empty his pockets to make sure he's not a cop, but Levon refuses, and tries to leave. Dutch orders his men to attack him. Levon fights them fiercely and defeats them until he grabs one and is about to kill him. Dutch yells to stop the fight. Dutch approaches Levon and tells him his fighting skills are superior to any cops and guesses he is a former soldier. Levon confesses that he is a former soldier and is currently a drug dealer with many clients in Chicago. He tells him he needs a large quantity because his supplier was arrested. Dutch tests him with a certain price. Levon tells him the price is high compared to Chicago prices. Dutch is convinced that Levon is a real dealer and sets a meeting at a cafe the next day for the delivery. The next day, Levon goes to the cafe and meets Artie and Chidi. He hands them the money and they give him a phone, telling him he will receive a call with the delivery location. Levon takes the phone, warns them not to double-cross him, and leaves. A little later, Dutch calls him and tells him the drugs are hidden under the seat he's sitting on, and explains that he did that to make sure no one was watching him. He tells him he will contact him the next day to arrange for the delivery of the large quantities. Levon ends the call and throws the drugs in the river to get rid of them. At night, Viper and Artie hand Jenny over to the customer who bought her, a man named Gart. When he asks them why he wants this particular girl, they tell him that her picture reminded him of an art painting he loves. He hands them a bag full of money and gold. Gart goes to Jenny to open the bag, but she bites him in the face when he gets close. He leaves, enraged, and orders Viper and Artie to take her and kill her. At that moment, Levon is in a simple apartment in a remote area, hanging the pictures and information he gathered on the wall. He receives a call from Dutch, who tells him the time and place of his meeting with his boss to receive the large quantity. The next day, Levon goes to that location and discovers it's a luxury restaurant filled with armed men. He is searched before meeting the boss. Levon is surprised that the boss is none other than Demi, whom he has been searching for all along. Before they start talking, Levon hands the drug money to Dutch. Demi asks Levon to show him his ID. Levon gives him a fake ID he used during his time in the army. One of Demi's men checks it and finds no mistakes, so he returns it to him. Demi shakes Levon's hand and gives him the bag of drugs, telling him he's happy because there will be a lot of business between them. Levon leaves the place, and also throws the drugs in the bathroom to get rid of them. He then returns to his apartment and looks at the pictures of Jenny and her friends at the bar. He notices Viper watching Jenny with great interest, and confirms from David's phone that the latter was in contact with Viper, which means Viper is the one who kidnapped Jenny. Levon knows that Viper is a regular at the same bar that belongs to Dutch's gang, so he goes there and watches the place from his car. But Artie discovers his presence through the surveillance cameras. We learn that Artie knew Danny and Vanko were looking for Levon, so she called them and told them that Levon was standing in front of the bar in his car. They arrive at the scene quickly. As soon as Levon sees them, he gets out of the car, steals a motorcycle that was parked in front of the bar, and flees. But Danny and Vanko get in their car and chase him, continuing to shoot at him. However, Levon manages to escape from them until he suddenly collides with a police car and falls to the ground. Levon is then shocked to see the police officers hand him over to Danny and Vanko and take money from them. They then tie him up and take him with them in the car, telling him that Volo, whom he killed, was their uncle. Levon mocks their words and the way they are dressed. They get angry at his mockery and attack him to beat him, but Levon strikes back violently. Danny tries to shoot him. Levon grabs his hand and pushes it away. The bullet hits the car's driver in the head, and the car overturns with all of them inside. Nevertheless, Levon manages to kill Danny and Vanko. He then frees himself, gets out of the car, and pushes it into the river. When Charmaine finds out that his two sons have been killed, he becomes deeply saddened and orders a meeting with the rest of the Mafia bosses. At that moment, Viper and Artie are with Demi, who is angry because Jenny wounded Gart in the face. Viper tells him this mistake won't happen again, and that he will take her with Artie to finish her off. They will then find another girl and hand her over to Gart. We return to Simone, who meets with the Mafia bosses and tells them what happened. One of them decides to send him two of their best fighters, Nestor and Sevi, and informs them that they will end the life of the man who killed his brother and sons. Simone takes them, and they go to Demi because he surely knows Levon's location, especially since he was standing in front of his bar. Here we learn that Demi is Volo's son, whom Levon threw into the swimming pool. It becomes clear that Demi was constantly at odds with his father, to the point that he was happy about his death. But when Demi learns that Levon killed Danny and Vanko, his uncle's sons, he is shocked, and tells Simone that Levon introduced himself to him as a drug dealer, and showed him his ID to verify it when they met. Simone replies that Levon was after his father, and because of him, his brother and sons were killed. He then leaves and goes on his way. Afterward, Nestor and Sevi manage to gather all the information about Levon. The next day, they go to the house of Jordan, Levon's father-in-law. At that moment, Levon is driving his car when he receives a call from the school, informing him that Jordan has not come as usual to pick up Mary. He quickly heads to the school to get his daughter and take her to her grandfather's house. On the way, Mary is surprised that her grandfather didn't come, and Levon becomes suspicious, feeling that something dangerous is happening. When he arrives at Jordan's house, he finds it completely on fire. He gets out of the car and enters the house to find Jordan tied up and on the floor. He quickly carries him out. Jordan then tells him that the Russian mafia did this to him, and blames Levon because it happened because of him. But Mary replies to her grandfather and says that Levon saved him from death. Jordan realizes his mistake and apologizes to Levon. Levon then takes his daughter and leaves for his friend Johnny's place. There he tells him everything that happened and informs him that he has reached Demi, who is involved in human trafficking and surely knows Jenny's location. Johnny takes him to his weapons cache and asks him to choose what he needs in terms of weapons and equipment for the mission. Levon then says goodbye to his daughter and his friend Johnny and asks him to take care of her. At night, Viper and Artie have taken Jenny to a remote location to kill her, but Jenny kicks them both, causing them to crash their car into a tree. She frees herself and runs away. Jenny continues to run until she finds a police car in front of her. Unfortunately, these police officers are corrupt and work for Demi's gang. They take her and hand her over to Viper and Artie, who were about to kill her, but Gart calls them and orders them to return her to him. At the same time, Levon arrives at the bar where Demi is sitting. He overhears him arguing with a woman he's with. Levon moves quietly and kills Demi's men one by one until he has eliminated all of them. He then grabs the woman and threatens to kill her, but Levon ignores his threat and shoots the hand holding the gun, severely wounding him. Levon tells the woman to take the money and leave. He then sits with Demi, shows him a picture of Jenny, and asks him about her. Demi denies knowing her, but tells him about a secret gambling club where his businessman clients from all over the world gather and buy kidnapped girls from him. Levon takes him in his car to guide him to the club. When they arrive, Levon gets out of the car, makes Demi stand in front of him, and asks him how he can traffic girls as if they were merchandise. Demi replies that he only cares about money. Levon shoots and kills him, then takes his bag in preparation for storming the club and saving Jenny. At the same time, Dutch receives a call informing him of what Levon did, and that he took Demi and went to the gambling club. He gathers all his men to follow him. At the club, Artie takes Jenny to the room where she is being held. Gart approaches her there to torture her as punishment for wounding him in the face. But suddenly, they hear the sound of a bomb exploding. Levon has set it off to storm the club, and he eliminates all of Demi's men who stand in his way. The customers flee in panic. At the same time, Dutch and his men arrive and enter the club, but Levon moves with great speed and skill, and manages to take down Dutch's men in a matter of moments. He then engages in a fierce fight with Dutch. Dutch is a strong fighter and lands hard blows on Levon, but Levon eventually overpowers him and kills him. He then continues his search for Jenny until he hears her screaming and quickly enters the room. There, he sees Gart and shoots him dead. He then grabs Viper and beats him until he dies in his hands, while Jenny manages to kill Artie by choking her with her legs. At that moment, Nestor and Sevi arrive with the corrupt police officers. As soon as Sevi sees them, he opens fire on them and blows up their car. Inside the club, Levon frees Jenny from her restraints and takes her outside. But he is surprised when Nestor and Sevi open fire on them. They take cover, and Levon uses a camera on his helmet to aim at Sevi and kill him with a single shot. He then throws a grenade at Nestor and blows him up, killing him. Afterward, Levon leaves with Jenny, takes her on his motorcycle, and they escape together. At that moment, Simone sees what happened and calls the Mafia boss to inform him of what happened. The boss replies that their mission is over and that they have no business with the man or the girl, but Simone insists on taking revenge for his brother and sons. The boss tells him that this is his personal matter and has nothing to do with the interests of the Mafia, and asks him to forget about it. Simone is forced to suppress his anger and yells out of frustration. The next day, Levon arrives at Jenny's family's house. They welcome him with great joy, hug Jenny, and thank him for saving her. Afterward, Levon returns to his daughter and sits with Johnny and his wife. They eat together, filled with happiness.